Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale, as well as the season finale of Deadly Class. Like always, I'm talking about something that you want to listen to. You can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Riverdale, you can skip to what I say about the season finale of Deadly Class. But the first thing I want to talk about is this week's episode of Riverdale. A lot of interesting things went down. I was actually completely surprised because I didn't see any previews for this episode, so I totally did not know that this episode was a musical, which is pretty dope that they did another one like that. It's pretty amazing, especially considering the fact this is all based around Heathers, which I've never seen that movie. I've seen tiny bits and pieces, but I've never sat down and watched that movie. So I know, weren't they making like a reboot of that? Like, I think it was getting rebooted as a TV show. Did that already happen, or is that still in the works? I don't remember. Nevertheless, aside from just the musical aspect being pretty dope and pretty awesome, once again, I'm kind of into musicals a little bit. Not the biggest fan of them, but it's like I feel like I've talked about this before in the past, but it's like as more and more I sit down and listen to more musicals, I'm like, I feel like I have a more appreciation for them than I did as an adult. But nevertheless, a lot of the big heavy-hitting stuff went down in this. Like a lot of relationships, a lot of story elements. So let's break things down. I don't actually completely forgot, like, yeah, I admit it, I completely forgot, like, oh yeah, the last musical number got screwed up because Midge was murdered. I was like, right, yeah, that would put a kind of a sour taste on this particular situation. What was also interesting was, there's so many different places to start. Okay, let's start with Veronica. It's like, oh, her parents are splitting up. It's like, oh, because, Hiram found out about her with the whole money situation. And, Veronica's so shocked and everything. I mean, I think she was a little concerned at first because, like, oh, are you still worried that dad might kill you thing? That never came up in conversation. But I was like, is that really that's the worst? Like, but then it took me a while because I was like, right. Jughead never told her because she didn't really want to know what it was that her mom was kind of involved in and everything, knowing that, like, she used FP to try and kill Hiram. So it's like, your mom's done a lot worse than just, that. And it turns out later on, Hiram's like, oh, I know she did that. Which, how did he find out about both? I wonder how did that come to his attention? Because even him being like, Veronica's like, no, there's no way. And he's like, you knew on some level, whether you wanted to admit it or not really. But it's like, dude, because for Hiram, it's so interesting because for him, family has always come first. But it's like, you and your mom have betrayed me. Not just once, multiple times. Because he even admits, it's like, your mom has tried to have me killed. Twice. It's like, yeah. And Veronica's not only betrayed you once, she's kind of done it multiple times. So of course it's going to be a situation of like, yeah, like this is no more family because I can't trust either one of you, because that's, for him, that's what family's all about, loyalty and trust. I'm sure he kind of, even in the awkward situation that he's in right now with Archie, that stalemate, that truce they have, I'm sure he actually trusts Archie more than he does his own family, which is crazy considering they're arch nemesis like that and everything. But nevertheless, it is kind of crazy because even Veronica admits how messed up it is that she wants to save her family, because it's like, you're to be 100% fair, it's like your mom and dad might be better off not together. I mean, to be fair, it's not like your mom and dad are good people. They are the farthest thing from it. But maybe it's like, hey, maybe they belong together because neither one of them is a good person. I don't know. Because for Veronica, it's like, no matter what the issues are, you can understand, because it's like, no matter what they do, no matter how much they screw up, those are still her parents. Especially all the crap her dad's done, yet she's still kind of, like I said, I guess that's just something you can't fight. Because she's always loved her dad. It's only, as she's gotten older that she's really learned what kind of a person he is, even what kind of person her mom is. I guess getting older kind of gives you new perspective, but at the same time, I'm sure she still feels like that little girl, like, I love my mom and dad, so it's just a complicated situation. Then it's not just that, there's a whole relationship stuff that comes up. It's like, I didn't realize that Josie and, Archie weren't officially a thing. It was like very super casual. And I was like, oh. And then then Sweet Pea came into the whole picture. And I was like, right, I'd forgotten that Sweet Pea and her were a thing. Like, even though like Josie and Archie kind of got together the same episode. Well, they didn't get together until like later on, but it was like that kind of, the beginning steps of that was kind of there after her and Sweet Pea kind of split, because Sweet Pea was like, I want things to be more, but Josie kind of didn't want them to be more. And then it's like, Betty being like, oh wow, Archie, are you and Josie dating? And then like, Reggie's like, wait, we just got together, you and me, V, and it's like, did you know about Archie? Is that, you found out your ex is dating again? Is that what made this happen? And it's like, no, because for her, it's like the whole complicated situation for parents getting divorced. Reggie kind of made her feel safe and good, so it's like, going back to something that feels right. And eventually Reggie's like, yeah, I'm sorry about this situation with your parents, but like, we can't do this right now, because he wants it to be like, we're together because you want to be together, not just because it's an emotional time for you, because you're making a decision like this because you're emotional, you're dealing with your own family situation. I want us to be together because you straight up want to be together. Like, I don't want other decisions influencing your decision about us being a thing. Because for him, it's like, he's all in. It's like, we're in game, that we belong together. So you see how strongly he feels about it, but you can definitely tell Veronica doesn't necessarily feel that same way. So there's that. But it's interesting, the whole conversation about Josie and Archie, because for Josie, it's like, we both met under these extenuating circumstances. We were both lost. And he's like, so you think we're just two lost souls? And so he's like, well, not really, because I think it's for Archie. It's like, you were there for him in a very low point for him. And it's like, you were able to kind of pull him back, kind of bring him back into the light, And, for him, it's like, even if you like me, let's kind of, start from scratch. Let's fight for this, fight for us, fight for who we could be. And I just thought that was sweet, especially they're sewn together about that, So it's kind of cute to see things kind of work out for them. And obviously, there's the Tony and Cheryl thing, which that got venomous. I know, funny, the poisons and everything. But once again, like, it's no surprise. Cheryl is ruthless, especially when she's hurt. And so it's like, oh, Tony's going to be the choreographer. And it's like, no, we got this ourselves. And she's even threatening Tony. It's like, you need to get out. It's like, you don't own the color red. I am red. And it's like, yo, like, it's so interesting. But it's like, I'm trying to think in retrospect, like, have we ever seen any other characters really wear red like Cheryl does? It's like, well, to be fair, like, that's kind of a Blossom thing too, because remember the whole thing about Cliff wearing a wig so that he could keep up the sign of like, oh yeah, young and vital, and this is the strong red-haired gene in our family. That whole situation. So you can tell it means a lot to her, because what red symbolizes for Cheryl and everything. So she was very mean to Tony, and then Tony's like, yo, you get here and you come here, sweet pea. He's like, let's get something started. And it's kind of like, no, never mind. I was like, whoa, are we really going? But Tony knew she would, just like Cheryl was lashing out, like Tony was at that moment too. And she's like, she knew how she felt about Cheryl, and she's like, I can't do this, And even she asked Cheryl about it, like, why are we even doing this? And it's interesting, because obviously, once again, Cheryl was hurt. That's why she was lashing out. For her, it's like, her entire life has kind of been covered in darkness, because her family, it's kind of all or nothing. It's either there's, it's all love, or it's just pure hate. There's no middle ground. And for her, her life was just kind of shrouded in darkness when it came to her family. But Jason was her light. Having lost him, she probably never thought she'd find light again until she met Tony. And Tony saying, like, having hesitations made her feel like, it's like she lashes out because she felt like Tony was slipping away from her. It's like, wait, you don't want to be with me? Is that what this is? Obviously, like, that's not what Tony was all saying. Basically, Tony was like, maybe we should take a step back. But, she looked at it as like, oh, you're just going to leave me. And like, Cheryl has a hard time with people in her life leaving her. Like, obviously, the last person that left in her life was her brother, the person that mattered the most to her. Like Clifford, that's a whole other thing. Not necessarily the same thing, because the only person in her family she really cares about the most was her brother. So, but we see them kind of making up and everything, so that's awesome. Then there's like the whole thing with Jughead when he finds out their trailer was stolen, so it's kind of like a Breaking Bad situation, like they're using it for drugs. And he ends up seeing it, and it's like, especially because he knows his mom's behind it, it's like, how could she do something so messed up? This was my home. Because you can tell FP wants to just put it behind him, because it's like, for him, it's a reminder of like, oh yeah, my family wasn't together. It was all my fault that my son and me lived in this situation. But for him, it's like, for Jughead, it's like, no, like, that was a home to me. It was home. And why would I ever bash on that? And so for him, it's like, how can my mom do this? And you even had her later on being like, oh yeah, because like FP's like, oh, I'll find out who's doing all this, and she's like, drugs, oh, what a shame. And just like, you literally have the audacity to stand there and be like that. That's the real like gut punch and all that. It's like, geez, Gladys, you were something else. And for Jughead, he was even thinking like, oh, maybe we can steal it, but, you know, Betty's like, you gotta let it go. Like, if you want to stop your mom, this is kind of the best way to kind of blow up her lab. And he ends up burning the house down. Even for him, it's like, yeah, literally childhood up in flames. And I even love that him and Betty are there kind of drinking. And, you know, he was like, I was able to do this. I'm surviving destroying my home because you're by my side. And they're kind of making out. And it's like, oh, there's some very, like, I don't know, old school, like, romantic moment in a movie or something. Like a very old school movie of, like, oh, these two lovers on the run type of thing. Like, even though they're not on the run, it has that, like, almost, like, old school kind of movie vibe to it. I don't know how to really explain it. It's a very unique aspect, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. Like I said, I thought it was kind of romantic in a, you know, crazy way. It's like, oh yeah, they're here kissing and being so in love while his house is burning in the background. It's interesting. Then there's everything with Evelyn. You could, like, because obviously Betty's confronting Evelyn because now she's co-directing this whole situation. And it's like, oh, we'll have these little get-togethers, you know, kind of like farm stuff to be like, oh, yeah, like everyone vent their problems. You know, Kevin was seeing Midge, and it's like, oh, I can't feel like it's all my fault. Which he saw that immediately after Evelyn had given him like a special brownie, so she was almost kind of basically like, oh, enjoy your trip and stuff like that. And then it turns out Fang did too. It's like, that can't be a coincidence. Once again, I was sure she was going to go after Cheryl, but once again, Cheryl might have been in a vulnerable state. Cheryl is too, her personality is too big to be like controlled by anyone. She's very hot-headed, and I don't think there's any way to temper that except for when she wishes to be tempered. You know, obviously Tony can kind of help with that, but I think that's why Evelyn never took her shot necessarily. Like, when they were in the bathroom, I thought that's what it was about, but it's like, oh, it was her being like, oh, you should check this out, pointing out Tony and Ray. I think the whole point was to kind of push Cheryl more and more to put her in a state where she could, but obviously it probably ended up backfiring because Tony changed her mind and Cheryl and her made up. But, you know, that might be something Evelyn kind of tugs at later on, but I was so certain she'd try it. I figured even if she tried, it wouldn't work just because of Cheryl's personality, but, you know. Like I said, she's too hot-headed and she's too stubborn and she's too, I don't know, Cheryl's just in her own lane. I don't see anyone slowing her down, essentially, so. But there's in a whole, like, so that kind of went where I figured it would, but like I said, we'll still have to wait and see if it continues to go down that route or not. Then there's the whole situation of, like, I was like, oh yeah, like the only reason why the farm wants to be involved because we want big fun. I think legitimately Evelyn is just as brainwashed as any other kid in this situation. She might seem like, it seems like she might be a believer in all of this, which she may be, but I feel like maybe it's just because her dad did a heavy brainwashing on her. We've heard references of her dad. We haven't heard references of her mom that might play a role in that. Maybe her mom was like, I got to get away from this cult stuff. Either she was a part of the farm and left, because there were people that have left the farm, so that could be potential. It could even be someone that Betty had called in the past when she was calling up all those different people. Might be something there. Or it could just be the fact is maybe she died and she was in a bad place. Maybe Edgar was in a bad place, hence the whole farm situation, finding some greater meaning in all of this. I have no idea. We'll have to wait and see in that. But then there's the whole Fang and Kevin situation, which is interesting when you think about it, because like Kevin dated Joaquin, who was a serpent, Fang, who's a serpent. Definitely Kevin's got a type. You know, I guess you can think to a certain degree, but it's like, because it seemed like that was something Evelyn did, because she like, it's just interesting that these two particular people were like, yeah, I was seeing Midge and everything, and it's like, I think that's kind of interesting. And it's like, they're also the same people she's trying to get together, I guess, kind of bringing Fang, indoctrinating him into this whole farm situation. I don't know. It's definitely crazy. You had Veronica inviting her family to the play and everything, both of her parents, which is interesting. Like, once again, her attempt to get them back together. It's like, once again, it's like, why do you want your parents together? That's not a good combination. Like, as they've literally, because Hermione feels like if she's not careful, your dad will kill her. Your mom has literally tried to kill your dad twice. That should be a sign, but once again, Veronica's holding up, like, no, my family's not conventional. It's like, that's putting it mildly. So that's definitely interesting. I'm very curious to find out what Gladys is going to do. I mean, she's just going to do something else. But I'm curious, is she going to find out that it was Jughead and Betty that burnt down the house? Like, what's FP going to say? Like, FP's probably just going to chalk it up. They'll be like, well, they tried to probably make some, fizzle rock, things got out of hand, and the place blew up. That's a shame. It's going to be interesting. Maybe even Jughead did you do it? And maybe he'll openly admit it. Like, yeah, I'm going to stop you no matter what to save my dad from you, save our family from you. You're going, way overboard, Mom. So we'll see. Because that says a lot, that you're willing to turn the home that your son grew up in into a drug lab. That speaks volumes. But for her, it's like, oh, we're leaving that life behind, so burn everything that was connected to our old lives. We're moving up in the world. We're moving on up, so I get that might be her way of kind of perceiving the whole situation. So, and finally at the end, we finally get introduced to Edgar, and then you have that creepy cult shit where he's clapping his hands, and then everyone else starts slowly joining in and succinctly clapping the same way he is. You can tell who is not part of the farm because everyone is in white. And there are even people sitting down looking like, okay, what the hell is going on? People on stage staring like, what the hell is going on? But Evelyn's the only one like, hi, Dad's so proud of me and stuff like that. It's like, jeez, could this look any creepier? So that speaks volumes of this. And it also proves that, yeah, Weatherby is a part of it. Not too surprised, considering the fact is that he kind of made it clear, like, oh, he read the doctrine and he started believing in it and stuff like that. And the reason why he's like, oh, no, this isn't, this is, oh, man, they're a club, blah, 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 blah. It's like he was making an excuse for him. It's like, yeah, you were brought up in this whole situation as well. So the cult continues to grow bigger and bigger. Very interesting developments. I'm very interested to see, where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. It's definitely going to be very interesting. And now moving on to the season finale of Deadly Class. A great season finale. So much stuff went down in this episode, so we got to break it down. First and foremost, I love that, Marcus is trying to give the motivational speech of like, some of us might not make it out because everyone's kind of freaked out. It's like, maybe we should walk away. Maybe we should actually call the cops because this is a situation where, hey, we might all die. And the situation is Marcus is like, yeah, we might, and this and that. And then you literally have Petra and Lex and even Saya being like, man, why are you trying to give the motivational speech? That's totally not you. It's like he's trying to have the hero moment, give the speech that rallies everyone up, and they all shit on him. Literally also making fun of the fact that he literally shit on himself. So that's a whole thing too. But Saya kind of pulls it together to basically like, I don't know what our situation is, but for whatever reason, we are kind of like a family, and everyone works together with this whole situation, this whole plan. But it turns out, obviously, Chester and his family were waiting, and lo and behold, the trap unfolds and stuff like that. Marcus put in work with that bat, taking out dudes left and right. And then Lex is getting chased by the dude with the chainsaw. He chainsaws at one dude. Marcus and Lex are standing there screaming, ah! Blood's flying anywhere, even when the dude falls back and the chainsaw starts slicing into him. It's crazy. And I love that cousin that gets over, he's making that speech and everything, and he's like, oh, fiddlesticks, and he gets blown to bits. That's crazy. Petra and Billy. It's kind of interesting because I like that line because Billy's like, you're normally not scared to die, so why is it different now? For her, it's like, hey, at the end of the day, I guess it's because it's always been like a faraway situation, and now that I'm up close and personal, it changes everything. And so when it comes down to it, she's here now, even though the situation is crazy that they could all die, because you guys are the only people in the world I like, so if you're going to die, I'd rather be there with you. Her and Billy almost kiss, and I love later on when she ends up saving Billy, I think she threw acid or poison in that dude's face, started melting it like crazy, that Billy was like, you chose me? She's like, for Christ's sakes, Billy. And then later on, they save Lex, and I'm like, because I was scared at every turn. I'm like, dude, this is a situation where everyone can end up dying. Lo and behold, everyone ended up kind of making it out of there, so you're like, yo, that's dope. I mean, Lex was literally about to get stabbed if it wasn't for Billy. And then, then he runs over. He's like, almost thought I was going to die. Thank you. And he hugs Petra and Billy, which is interesting because I'm like, hey, maybe this means that whole situation that was starting before. Weird to say, but maybe that's kind of alluding to the fact is that maybe potentially that's going to end up happening and be a thing. Who knows? what it comes down to is the showdown with Marcus and Chester. I love, like, he's walking forward and the guy's in the cage being like, he fucks the dogs, he fucks them, and stuff like that. It's just the weirdness and craziness that is Chester, and the fact is that he's literally saying that and stuff like that. Because I think Lex had walked in with Marcus at the beginning and saw all those animals. He's like, wow, you were right about this dude. And so Chester's putting on this, like, almost TV talk show, basically. It's so interesting because he's like, oh, basically wants him to confess and everything. It's like, because of you, Marcus, I turned into the person I am. Yeah, he's like, I had some issues here and there, but the fact is, when you blew me up, it woken something in me, and I became the murderer I did. And, you know, it was so interesting, because I thought we were potentially going to go down that route. That whole scene with Marcus, I was like, wait, are we really doing this? When Marcus is like, hey, you're right. Because for him, it's like, I realize what's wrong with you. You're sad. It's like, and what is anger if not sadness turned within? And the fact is, or was it the other way around? Either way, the fact is that he was like, at the end of the day, like, this reputation you have, it won't fill that void in you. The fact of the matter is, you know, what kind of matters is, like, families and friends. And for him, it's like, he's almost wearing him down, because he's like, yeah, he's like, actually, you know, the only time I felt good was when I was with you. Like, you were, like, my first, probably, and only friend. And it's like, and Marcus is like, yeah, we did a lot of messed up things to each other. But he's like, hey, the school I go to, they'd love you. And it's just like, I'm like, wait, are we really about to do this? That'd be kind of twisted if this is where it comes into. It's like, nope. Marcus was just using that as an, I should have figured as much, but I wasn't sure if that was the right. Because at first I was like, is it even going to work? I was like, Chester's going to change his mind or something. It's like, no, Chester was really biting into it. And then when it comes down to it, Marcus lets out the dog, and I guess, like, the dog was like, yeah, all the stuff that Chester did to it, of course it's going to be pissed. And it rips into him. Holy crap. That got bloody. And that dude's standing there filming the whole situation. So there's that. Can't skip over the whole Saya and Maria thing. Maria's like, you fucked him, didn't you? And it's like, Saya's literally got her own blade against her neck, and she's like, you were going to let that bitch kill me. And it's like, then they start fighting, because for Maria, it's like the fact that I think the final straw was like, Saya calling her, he's like, they were right about you. You are crazy. Because it's like, for Maria, it's like, she picks this point in time, because it's like, you know how much Marcus meant to me, essentially. And it's like, you are only here because she's like, I'm literally risking everything to be here to help you. But then, like, you have Maria being like, it's just, the fact is that you're here just means that you think you can basically take everything that's mine, turns into a fight. 2 more members of the family show up and they get taken down. So, and the sad thing is, when it's all said and done, like, actually Saya ended up helping Maria, but I think when it's all said and done, like, Saya's just kind of like, it's not worth it. You guys are literally dragging me down. She doesn't even want to help Marcus, and I'm sure because she feels the way she does about Marcus, but I think it's just, it's a whole clusterfuck. It's just a complicated situation. So she's just kind of like, you know, because for her, it's like she jeopardized everything she has going for her at the school and stuff like that, you know, her future for them. And it's just kind of like, for her, it's like almost wasn't worth it in the end with that being the case. And it's like, damn, dude, that sucks. And then, you know, Marcus and Maria, you know, for him, it's a complicated thing, because he's like, I felt like it was an obligation and stuff like that. Because for her, it's like, all I ever did was love you. And he's like, I didn't ask you to do that. Like, it's a complicated thing of like, it took this whole situation to make him realize he loves her. But the fact is, I think it's just because, you know, Marcus is like, I don't know what's wrong with me. To be fair, it's like, he is a little screwed up. I think there is some truth in what he was saying about the fact is of like, we're so fixated on these certain things. Like, for him, it's like, me wanting to kill Ronald Reagan because, you know, of his situation. It's like, that's not the right situation in all of this, you know? And I think, I don't know if that still was true to him. I don't know whether that was obviously part of him spilling that lie, or was that actually some form of truth of, has he changed his mind and will he not kill Reagan because his mindset's changed? It's because it was like he was angry and obviously he needed to lash out at someone. And for him, it's like that, you know, isn't, you know, essentially saying like lashing out like that, thinking like that, wanting that, isn't going to help anything. It's not going to fill the void of me having lost my parents, essentially. And now it's the whole situation of, you know, his Chico's dad's there, and then Lex is like, oh, you gotta go before things get tits up, holy crap. And literally last thing in the episode, him getting shot, which I'm like, no. It's like literally everyone walked away from this alive because Lex was the only one that almost died, and it's like, bam, he ends up getting shot. To be fair, we don't know where he got shot, but just to kind of make it heart-wrenching, they'll probably make it so that he did potentially die. I hope not. I hope he made it through this, especially because Lex is a character we've gotten to know. Is like, if you're able to drop main characters like that, even in the main first season, that speaks volumes. I mean, but I hope not. Especially just because it's like, oh, like I said, he literally just survived. But I think that's the point. He'd be like, oh, everyone made it out alive. Nope, never mind. You know, so that's that. That's a complicated situation because obviously Petra and Billy, I think, have already left potentially, and Saya definitely has. Then we have the whole Lin situation, him trying to escape with his daughter. You know, Gao and Shab. Dude, Shab is going to get a fistful later on, dude. Because it's his fault so much shit went wrong. Like everything with Chester knowing what they were up to and stuff like that was because of him. Gao knowing what's up is all on him too. It's like he sucks so much. So you can basically blame a lot of this on Shab. And so, you know, Lin is fighting tooth and nail to protect his daughter. She's all he has left in this world. You know, and now, you know, he almost made it and everything. His daughter even came and backed him up during the fight. And then you have, you know, Gao having already been like a step ahead of him and everything. And it's like, Jesus, dude, can this not just be this sucky situation? And at the end, he gets his daughter taken from him. And it's like, man, that sucks, because it's like she's not ready, and Gao's like, neither was I. And the sad thing is like Gao knows what that situation is, and you can make the argument where it's like, this is the obligation we have. Like, you know, Dad shouldn't have never given me up. You and Dad should have fought for me, but y'all put me in that situation. Now I'm gonna put your daughter in that situation. And it's like, it's almost to feel the hole in her heart. It's like, I'm not saying she's doing this necessarily because of that, but it almost feels, you can't help but think like, oh, you're doing this because it was done to you, so you're trying to fill that hole in your heart by making someone else go through it. But for her, it's also just kind of like, this is the situation I find myself in. You guys put me in this situation, so I have to make this ugly decision. Like, sacrifices have to be made. Your daughter has to go to the guild and everything, and it sucks. It's going to be interesting to see what happens between him and Saya. Like, he's going to be uber pissed because Saya made this choice. And it's like, when it's all said and done, if they all somehow manage to survive all of this, things will never be the same between that group of friends. Like, Saya's kind of given up on all of them. I was actually surprised we did not get Willie coming back. I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, I thought maybe he'd show up in the end, potentially help Marcus and everything. Turns out not to be the case. Like, it doesn't mean everything's going to be all peaches and cream. That maybe he will still come back and help in the end, but maybe it's just going to be at a different point. I have no idea. Or maybe there is no more. I don't know, because I doubt Willie's just going to get away that easily, because, well, his family has resources, I'm sure. Like, his gang, they'll probably track him down. So I don't think, and that's probably going to get ugly all on its own. So I wonder what is, you know, Lin going to do. Because obviously, like, Chico's dad is mad about the whole situation about his son. But it's like, obviously, like, he was going to kill Lin's daughter, but that's no longer an option. Is he going to try and kill Lin? Is it just basically going to be the cartel versus King's Dominion? What's going to happen in that? I mean, is Marcus and Maria even going to find their way out of this situation? I was like, I'm surprised he didn't put a bullet in Maria right then and there. So it's just complication upon complication. Obviously, all worlds are colliding, because obviously, like, everyone in Tokyo knows Saya's here in the U.S., obviously, so they know where she is to a certain extent. So, because Yukiko was giving reports and stuff like that, he set everything in motion, so there's a potential that... Well, let's also not forget, like, that friend of Yukiko's is still out there, so she's going to be gunning for Saya. Because the thing is, Saya's so screwed because of all the moves she made for other people, in this case Marcus, in the case of Maria, like, it screwed everything up. Like, you know, it's kind of like, because basically her making these choices kind of show that she has chosen her side, but now for her it's like, well, where do I go? She's kind of screwed over with the syndicate in a certain sense, because obviously everything dealing with her brother, but just her choosing this side. She's screwed over with Maria and Marcus. That love triangle is basically going to implode that friendship group. You know, it just, things fell apart, and it's going to be interesting to see potentially where this all takes us going forward. at the time of me recording this, it still seems unclear whether the show is coming back for a second season. I hope that it does. I really like this show. Like, I went into this not knowing anything about the comic book, but I really like this show. It's very unique in its own way, and I'm so curious to see, where things have left us off, like what we see potentially in the second season, like where will everyone's stories take us. Once again, I hope Lex isn't dead, because that would suck and that'd be heartbreaking. But I guess, like, for storytelling purposes, maybe it kind of do something for the situation of the team. Like I said, like, are we going to see like a situation of Lynn trying to track down his daughter? Like, will he use King's Dominion not only to potentially deal with their cartel, because that might be an issue, wanting to burn everything down, or will this be basically Lynn basically challenging the foundation of everything, that basically going to war with the guild using his students, And obviously they've been beaten down in this situation, but next season potentially we could have an all-out war in this assassin's world, and that'd be pretty dope to see. Like, I'm all for Lynn trying to protect his daughter and stuff like that. Like I said, like, we got a little bit of history in everyone's, it's kind of interesting, because the one person we never really got a history, like, we saw him talk about, but when everyone else talked about their past, it was that animated thing, and it's like, okay, so what about Lynn? He never had like an anime thing, he just talked about it. So maybe that's something we could potentially see in the future, like obviously building out other people's stories as well. We'll ultimately have to wait and see, like I said, once again, I'm hoping for a second season, because I'd love to see what they do with one for this show. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.